Wildwood Trader at 15 Greenville Street in Noonan is your home for hand-built antique furniture, cabinets, and more. Fun decorating items, and of course at Wildwood Trader, direct from the factory items and furniture. So you get 20% below the factory and store prices. Call 770-683-4304. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sundays, 12 noon to 5 p.m. Wildwood Trader, your home decorating specialist in Noonan.
Tune in every Tuesday morning from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. for Faith Works with Pastor Jimmy Ellison. Pastor Ellison has the privilege of interviewing leaders in Noonan who are making a kingdom impact, modeling for our community that faith does indeed work. So don't miss an episode of Faith Works with Pastor Jimmy Ellison, Tuesday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., only on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key.
Hey, I'm Jimmy Ellison. I'm the pastor here at Noonan City Church. I want to thank you. You'll find as you walk through that we focus on three areas primarily. One is worship, small groups, and local missions. And our purpose is transforming lives for Jesus' sake, helping individuals experience that transformation. And we use these three areas, worship, small groups, and local missions, to help individuals experience that. So you'll get a sense of who Noonan City Church is, and I hope that you'll come and worship with us soon. Take care, and God bless.
The views and opinions expressed during this broadcast do not necessarily reflect the beliefs of this radio station, its management, or its sponsors. Listeners are urged to use their own discernment to draw their own conclusions.
It's now time for Faith Works with Pastor Jimmy Ellison from Noonan City Church.
Good morning, Noonan. This is Jimmy Ellison, and you are listening to Faith Works, where each week we have conversations with community leaders demonstrating that faith does indeed work. And this morning we are thrilled to have Kelli Jaeger Nelson with us, who is the executive director for Bridging the Gap here in Noonan. And Kelli, we're so excited to have you, sister.
Oh, thanks for having me this morning.
I have had numerous people come to me and say, what do you know about the new executive director at Bridging the Gap? And I have had to say, I don't know a lot. I've only met her just a couple of times, but she's going to be on my radio show. And so I know people are waiting for this interview to hear more about Kelli and your story. So tell us a little, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Let's start with that.
Sure. I'm actually one of those people who lived all over the country, kind of north, south, east, and west, from Texas to Minnesota to California to
Is that
Ohio.
a military family?
No, I wish I could say that. Just a tremendous sense of wanderlust, I think. I wound up in Georgia and spent my high school years in Georgia. So I grew up in East Cobb County, up there between Marietta and Roswell.
Where'd you go to high school?
Walton High School.
Walton, yeah.
And then I ended up going to Georgia Southern. So I spent
Go Eagles.
a lot of time in Statesboro and Savannah and the surrounding area, and loved it. Loved Georgia. Georgia was always home, and always was looking for an opportunity to come back home. I did start my professional career. I worked in the corporate world, doing marketing and communications. I have a BS in PR, which is a little humorous if you think about it. And I received that degree from Georgia Southern. It was actually a communication arts degree. When I went there, there was no official degree in public relations, just an emphasis, so kind of showing my age there. I was there when Irk Russell was there to give people kind of a point of reference. But I worked professionally in the Atlanta area. I worked for real estate development companies. I had my own small shop for a while, marketing, communications. Also worked for a field marketing agency out of Manhattan for a couple of years, but I was stationed here in the Atlanta area. And it was tremendous. And then had an opportunity to move to Ohio, which I did. And I've been in Ohio for 17 years.
Okay.
But I was always looking for the opportunity to come home.
To come back home. I hear you.
home.
So you came to Noonan through United Way. So you were doing nonprofit work in Ohio.
I was the CEO of a United Way in Ohio.
So how did we go from marketing, PR work to nonprofit work?
Well,
and not only nonprofit, but the executive. I mean, did you start? You didn't start as an executive.
No, I did not start as an executive. I always felt that volunteering in the community was necessary. It was part of your obligation to your community to serve and to give back. So I had always volunteered. My interests had always been around health and education, financial stability, and also the arts, and was very involved with the arts. Before I left Atlanta 17 years ago, I lived in Fulton County, and I was involved with the Public Art Committee there. So even civically, I was giving back. But I did a lot of volunteer work with the American Cancer Society, with Relay for Life, a lot of volunteer work with Muscular Dystrophy Association, and then other nonprofits in each of the places that I've lived along the way. But I was very entrenched in corporate America, and one day I woke up and I thought, wow, I'm making all this money for these corporations, and I'm not seeing those corporations really give back in these communities.
Sure.
And it was an epiphany moment for me that I knew that I needed to serve.
How many years ago was that?
Oh, wow. That was about 12 years ago.
Okay.
And I had been working for a corporation at that time, and I'm a big believer that God has a plan for all of us, and I don't always know what that plan is, and sometimes I kick and scream because I'm unsure where I'm going. But I worked for a national housewares company doing their national marketing and PR work, and I got riffed. The company downsized 3 times, and I was in the 3rd round of layoffs. I was the last marketing person to go. And it was at that moment where that passion that had been building in me to actually serve more, it hit me. I should be working in nonprofit full time. So I took that opportunity, and I began to look at harnessing my skills to work in nonprofit organizations. I worked as a marketing director for an organization called Apprizin, which was in Columbus, Ohio, which was a nonprofit that focuses on teaching financial stability to low and moderate income people. Then I went on to become the development director for a YMCA in Ross County, Ohio, which is where I was living before coming here. And while I was working for the YMCA, I had a friend call me and say, the CEO position of the United Way has just opened up, and I know this is your job. And after a couple of rounds of her convincing me that I absolutely needed to put my hat into that arena, I did, and secured that position. And I was there for the last 3 years.
That's fantastic. And so I know a good bit about Bridging the Gap. You know, they're located. You guys are located, of course, next to our church where we worship, and so we do a lot of stuff together with you guys and partner with you. And I know for a fact, talking to the board members leading up to them hearing about you, discovering you, they were praying, they were seeking God in this, and they were very patient. And they were telling me, I was telling you off the air, that they the idea that who they wanted, I kept thinking to myself, I don't know if you're going to get somebody with that level of experience that you're looking for to come to Noonan, Georgia. To be honest with you, I had that in my head. I was thinking that, but the Lord provided you, and what a gift you are. I mean, to have your experience to come to Noonan to lead Bridging the Gap. I know it's been God's hand has been in this.
Oh, I definitely have felt that. I have older parents that retired.
And they live
area.
around here, right?
They do. They actually live in Summer Grove.
Okay, all right.
As I'm learning geographically where everything is. So I have an 85-year-old stepfather. My mother's in her late 70s, but I will not say her age.
Don't do it.
Yeah, because that'll just get me in trouble.
Because she's probably listening. So.
And I have a grandmother who's well into her 90s.
Wow.
So
now, is the grandmother local as well?
She is. She just recently moved in with my parents from her own home.
How about that? Beautiful.
So, yeah, it's wonderful that they're all here.
So they've got, and you have your children, so there's 4 generations of you all now
Yes.
in Coweta.
Yes.
What a
there is.
gift. What a gift that is.
It really is.
To your children and to you, I mean, that's special.
Yeah, I think it was tremendous. And I really felt like, God was really working me this direction, because my parents are at that age now where as you pass that 80 mark, you're closer to the end than you were to the
Absolutely.
beginning. And being able to be here to support them and to continue that relationship with them face to face is really important.
Yeah, help them finish well. Well, I know you are a person of faith.
I am.
And tell me a little about your faith journey. Did you grow up in the church?
I actually grew up exploring a lot of different faiths. I was really encouraged to do that. So I spent a lot of time. I was most attracted when I was younger to Christianity.
Okay.
The other faiths did not interest me.
So when you talk about other faiths, you're talking about
Across the board, I was encouraged to explore
Muslim,
anything.
Hindu.
Although I did not explore the Islamic tradition, and I did not explore Hindu, but I did look at Buddhism when I was much younger. I did have the opportunity to attend temple and explore some of the Jewish faith, and always felt myself coming back.
Okay. Were your parents, were your mom and dad Christian?
My mother was. My mother was.
Dad was not.
Yeah.
Okay.
My parents divorced when I was fairly young.
Okay.
And so my mother was always very supportive of exploring many traditions. But she was always a Christian. And her hope was always that I would discover and find that. And I did attend church. I attended the Baptist church when I lived in Texas for quite a long time. I actually came into contact with the Methodist church, and when I was 21, I actually was baptized in the Methodist church in Marietta at Mount Bethel.
Really?
Methodist, yes.
Did Randy?
He did. He did.
Randy and I are good friends.
Yeah.
Tell me what you said. You found yourself coming back to Christianity. What was it that drew you? What was it about the faith that you said this is what that I'm longing for?
Because it was true. Because
Tell me
it
more
felt
about
true. Because you could feel it, you could experience it, you could see it in people living it. And I think that that's always the best example of Christianity is living it and letting people see you live it. Because many people say many things, and many people feel that they get taken advantage of in their dealings with the world. So they hear many things kind of in one ear, out the other. But when you hear people expressing it, and then you see people living it. That is the best expression of faith to me, and that's what I found with the Methodist Church when I was living here in Atlanta. And then, of course, my mother and my stepfather belonged to the Presbyterian Church. I do have an uncle who's a Presbyterian minister, so I did spend a lot of time in the Presbyterian Church also. But through my own explorations and finding my own personal journey, it was the Methodist Church that attracted me.
Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Tell me a little, of course, you wanted to be here close to your family, but you also chose Bridging the Gap. What was it about Bridging the Gap that you thought, you know what, this is going to be a good fit for my next season?
Well, there were a couple of things. One, that it was a Christian-based ministry. Although services are available to all, no one is turned away as a result of not practicing Christianity. It was the fact that they were actually living those values. That was really, really important to me. the populations that they were working with, areas of health and education and income stability, affordable housing, homelessness, all important to me. And the baseline of beginning to have stability in those areas is to be fed first.
Yeah.
So the expression of their mission to feed, to serve, and then to restore was extremely attractive to me.
Yeah.
And I remember finding the information, and I called my mom and I said, what do you know about this group Bridging the Gap in Noonan? My mother was like, oh, it's a fabulous organization. And I was like, I think I'm going to send my resume to them. And she was very encouraging. And it was absolutely the right thing to do because it led me to today.
Sure.
But I think it is the one-on-one touch, the expression of those values about really helping those in your community that need it the most that really attracted me to it.
I would imagine, and you can confirm or not, the clients that you serve through the United Way, you probably had upper income as well as lower income. I mean that's how,
Sure. It was a mix. The primary focus that United Way liked to put in my particular United Way, each United Way is an independent organization under an affiliation umbrella of United Way Worldwide. So they each had their own board of directors, and they set your agenda for what you'll be moving through, but always under those pillars of health, education, and income stability. So there was a variety of economic groups that I was working with, but the main focus was really to support low and moderate income people. People really falling in that gap. And the gap being where both parents are working. Sometimes they're working 2 jobs apiece, but they're minimum wage jobs without benefits. So they're asset limited, they're income constrained, but they're employed. But it's just not much. It's too much money, sometimes by only $5 or $20 a year, to receive assistance to support their family, but not quite enough to make ends meet, so they're always robbing Peter to pay Paul at the end of each month.
That's tough. That is a tough
It was
season.
tough.
Yeah. So when you came down here, you were attracted to Bridging the Gaps, serving the food aspect ministry. Is that was the number one thing? Because I know Bridging the Gap does more than just food.
They most certainly do. The first thing that caught my attention was that they begin the relationship usually through providing food through the food pantry. But it is so much more than that. Yes, they do the food pantry, and last year they did almost 300,000 pounds of food distribution through the drive-up pantry on Saturdays.
Which I just want to throw this out. If you've not been to Bridging the Gap on a Saturday to see that in action, I mean, it truly is.
It's amazing.
It really is. I mean, it is a well-ran machine that provides quality and quantity.
It does.
To families in need. I mean, it's amazing. Week after week after week after week.
Yeah, it's amazing, and that can't happen without the partnerships and the collaborations we have in the community. Everyone plays a part in that, but it's a well-oiled machine. Last Saturday alone, we had over 90 vehicles full of people pull up to receive a food box for the week. And the way that operation works, just for people who don't know, is people come on campus at 8 o'clock down on First Avenue. We're at 19 First Avenue here in Noonan. And they get in line. We line them up in their vehicles, and then we have people who walk around and register them through the Atlanta Food Bank system so that we can track the people who are coming to see how much food we're actually providing and potentially how much assistance they need for how long. They also fill out a prayer request form. And many people take us up on having us come and pray with them for things that they need the support with. But it also has an area to list items that they might need that they can't get if they're on food assistance. If you have an EBT card, you cannot purchase shampoo to wash your hair or soap to wash your body or detergent to wash your clothes.
I did not know that.
So, for many people, being able to have those things is the way that they're able to maintain being employed. If you're not clean and presentable and clean clothing and have good hygiene, it's difficult to hold a job. So those
Yes.
things are really important. So they go through this process of registration. Then most people leave their vehicles after everyone is registered and come inside and have a meal. And many of the churches in the area come, just like your church has come.
Yeah.
Actually, the first week I was there
Yes.
interviewing, I got to meet you.
I know it. I felt honored that
I-
we connected that Saturday.
I was trying to interview on the sly and not let anybody know I was
knew-
watching
I knew who you
their
were. I already had the skinny on you, so I knew who you were. That's why I made a beeline to you to start asking you all these questions.
But it's amazing because the churches who come in provide the food for that morning for the people who are there, and also can do a devotional or a worship service. And for a lot of those people, they tell me in talking to them, because I really try to make it around the room and talk to everyone
Yeah.
and see how their day is, and they tell me that in addition to being fed that morning, the thing they look forward to is actually having a service or having a devotional
Well,
led by a church group. Or
some of those, Kelly, I mean, that's their church.
for
For some, they see that as their weekly worship experience.
I would say that that's true.
Well,
I would
I know,
say
yeah.
that many of them have said that to me
Yeah.
in the short time that I've been here, because I've been here just a little over 30 days now.
Wow.
And really getting to sit down and talk to people who are receiving services, people who are coming there as our guests, is so important to making sure that we are fulfilling those needs. I mean, we have the data, we have the numbers, but it's that one-on-one contact to see that we can help fulfill some of the other needs that they might have that can help bring them to restoration.
Sure.
I think is really, really important.
Yeah.
And you don't do that if you're sitting behind a desk in
Yeah.
an office and not actually out there doing the work. So to continue with how the rest of the day goes, after they finish eating, people go back out to their vehicles. The boxes have all been put together specific to how many people are in that family. And an average box weighs about 60 pounds. That's not just shelf-stable canned foods or dry items. It's vegetables, it's fruits, it's frozen meats, it's refrigerated items, it's milk, it's eggs, it could be yogurt, it could be a wide variety of things, bread items, dessert items. And as a United Way CEO, I did fund food pantry programs, and this is the most I have ever seen in a distribution. And the team that comes together in that warehouse and the volunteers who come together, they do an amazing job, and it is like clockwork. It's amazing.
It really is. What do you get? You've talked about the partners that help you with the food. What are some of the parts? I mean, where do you get that meat? I mean, I've seen it. These roast beef that comes out. These steaks. Where do you get that?
Well, it's a wide variety. We have many of the grocery stores in the area do support us.
Okay.
Organizations like Sam's and BJ's, Publix.
And do they
Kroger.
drop it? Y'all go there to pick it up? I know you have a truck, and I see Jeremy going.
Yeah.
with that truck.
Actually, we do pickups every day of the week. Different
Okay.
locations. We pick
Okay.
up different items at different locations.
Okay.
And then locally, when there are local organizations or local groceries or that are more mom and pop kind of scenarios, sometimes we get donations through them also. Recently, there was a grocery store, and the name is escaping me, but it is in Sonoya, that had a freezer unit that went down, and they donated all the frozen food that they had in the freezer.
Wonderful.
And it's amazing because I have to tell you, when I first got there, we were talking about, we were short on some item, and they looked at me and they said, "We're just going to go pray about it. Don't worry, this is how things work here." And I'm thinking, okay. And then it mysteriously appears,
Yes.
before it's actually needed.
That's
sometimes
the Lord, yeah.
it is. And, sometimes it's the end of the day, and some days it's just a few days before we need it. But there it is. So it's amazing. Tremendous organization. But, beyond being able to do the Saturdays, we have a clothing pantry for people. We serve primarily the homeless population here in Noonan. And I have well over 80 homeless individuals who are registered with us. And we provide showers, laundry facilities twice a week, because again, for them to be able to have a job, they have to be clean. And that's huge. For a mom who maybe is living in a distressed situation and the electricity has been cut off, it's the opportunity for her to be able to come in and do laundry for her family also. We serve meals on those days. Tuesdays and Thursdays are the days that we do that. So people can come in and take a shower, they can do their laundry, and they'll receive a hot meal. We have a wonderful volunteer who runs our kitchen there, and her name is Natalie. And
Absolutely.
Natalie makes everything from scratch.
And we love Miss Natalie.
We do. She's taken really good care of me since I've been here, making sure that she's always checking on me to make sure I have coffee and that I've eaten something that
Isn't
day.
that nice?
Yeah, she's
I love
tremendous. And we had our pancake breakfast to talk about the organization with donors right after I got here, and Natalie's famous pancake recipe was published in the paper. So if you missed that, you can go back and look at Bridging the Gap's pancake recipe. It's actually Natalie's
as
recipe.
one that enjoyed those pancakes firsthand, I would encourage everyone to go back to check that recipe out. Now, how many are you guys serving on Tuesday, Thursdays when you do the lunch, the washing the clothes, that aspect? How many? Because those, I'm thinking those are folks who are probably either homeless, or on the verge of homelessness, or certainly living. They're not people who, number one, they don't have regular jobs. They may have an income, but not regular jobs.
Right.
They're not living in probably apartments or housing that would have washer and dryer. So how many are you serving?
Well, that number really does fluctuate because you're right, it's a wide variety of people. Some people who are homeless are couch surfing. So they're staying with grandma or they're staying with a friend and they're bouncing around, but they don't have regular access to laundry facilities. Some are more in the category of what I would call an urban camper, someone who is camping in the city somewhere in a wooded area or with a group of other people who are homeless. Some are, a mom who may be living in a car temporarily, or it could be someone who is in an apartment that the electricity and other services have been cut off. So they technically are living someplace, but they don't have access to any of the services because they don't have the money to have the water turned back on or the electricity turned back on. Consistently, I would say it's probably about 83 cases that we see in a week. And when I say cases, I mean individuals or family unit groups
that category
that are really in that category who are using us consistently. Now, that number, that's an average, and that number does bump up and down depending on the week and the time of year.
And I've met, Kelly, individuals, families who are just coming through on the interstate.
Yeah.
And they hear about Bridging the Gap,
and
they come in for the meal. They just come in for that moment and then get back on the interstate. Or I've heard of that.
Yeah, that's completely true.
Yeah.
We have people who maybe their car is broken down on their way to somewhere else, and they need a shower while they're getting their car worked on, or it is someone truly just coming through town and doesn't really have the funds. They have enough money to put gas in the car to get to where they're ultimately going, where the job is or where their family is at the end of the road, but don't have the ability to get a shower, to have a hotel room, those kinds of things. And we do have a few of those. We do register everyone, like I said, that comes in through the Atlanta Food Bank registration system. So we have a record of them being there and receiving services, and that way at the end of the year we're able to go back and capture all of that information so that we can have that data to know exactly who we've served. That's a real important piece of this. Doing the work. We are a mission-based business. If we don't keep our business piece in alignment, we can't fulfill our mission. And that's really, really important. So that data and those other numbers and being...
Very important for grants and
absolutely.
all that. To go back to your donors to say, this is how many families we've served. Yes,
and it's really important to us to be transparent with that information.
Yes.
You need to be able to know if you've supported Bridging the Gap, where your money has gone, the people that you've helped. That's important.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're coming up on a hard break, Kelly. When we come back, I want to I know that as a new CEO, executive director, there are things right now you're thinking, okay, this is what I want to implement. This is what I want to see.
That's almost unfair to ask me.
Is it? Well, I'm going to ask when we come back from the break. You are listening, friends, to FaithWorks. We'll be right back.
You've been around long enough to know good stuff when you hear it. That's why you're here now. Classic Hits, WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key.
At Newlink, WOW, local matters. Local keeps our families and businesses thriving. WOW takes pride in serving the Newnan and Peachtree City communities and supporting Coweta County charities and events. For the fastest local internet, call 770-683-1931 and get up to 100 megs of speed for $29.99 a month. Lock in this price, save for the whole year. It's a great value that locals love.
Join us here, live from Newnan, Georgia, as we present the Health, Happiness, and Harmony Hour, every Wednesday from 10 to 11. I'm your host, Dr. Lewis Boynton. Please join us each week as we have new guests and talk about topics related to the psychological world. We're hoping that you will find interesting and helpful topics that will help you have more health, happiness, and harmony in your life. Join us every Wednesday from 10 to 11 at 99.1 WQEE Rock and Roll Radio.
Ever dreamed of being a radio DJ or hosting your own show? Now here's your chance. WQEE 99 Rock the Key is giving you an opportunity to host your own show. If you'd like to get your advertising message across the thousands of listeners throughout the area, here's your chance. Hosting your own show is the way to do it. Perfect for attorneys, realtors, churches, sports talk shows, and more. Contact 678-673-6318 for further information. Host your own show.
Discover the hidden treasures of historic downtown Newnan on the Goodwill Ambassadors Radio Show with Mr. Personality every Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, Newnan.
Tune in the second and fourth Thursday each month for Know Your Rights. I'm your host, Charles Cobble, and we will discuss your rights and have plenty of information on what those rights are. Every second and fourth Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on WQEE 99.1 FM.
Hey, I'm Jimmy Ellison. I'm the pastor here at Newnan City Church. I want to thank you. You'll find as you walk through that we focus on three areas primarily. One is worship, small groups, and local missions. And our purpose is transforming lives for Jesus' sake, helping individuals experience that transformation. And we use these three areas, worship, small groups, and local missions, to help individuals experience that. So you'll get a sense of who Newnan City Church is, and I hope that you'll come and worship with us soon. Take care, and God bless.
Around long enough to remember getting up to turn the channels on the TV? That's classic. Classic Hits, WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key.
Welcome back to FaithWorks. I'm Jimmy Ellison, and we have been talking to Kelli Jaeger Nelson, who is the executive director of Bridging the Gap. And Kelli, first of all, again, thanks for being on the show. And I'm just so impressed with how God orchestrated you to get to Newnan, Georgia. Someone with your expertise and passion and faith. It's just very exciting to have you as part of our nonprofit community here in Newnan. I know I'm a CEO of a nonprofit in Atlanta, and I know what it's like to be the person in charge, and know you have a board that you report to, of course.
Yes.
As all nonprofits do, nice churches do. But as the executive of the organization, I know you're always looking ahead. You're always saying, okay, what's next down the road for us? So I want to hear what's next. What you got cooking? What do you want to improve? What do you want to maybe start? What are some of your dreams? I know I know this is not board approved yet. Right. But just let me hear from you. What are you thinking?
Okay, well, to begin with, I think it's the reacquaintance and the expansion of the collaborations that we have the opportunities with. Churches, faith-based organizations in the area, the outreach to them, making sure that those partnerships are strong, making sure that we're all on the same page about a lot of these services that churches do provide some of these services individually, and I just think that organizations working in collaborations have a much greater reach, whether that's working with social service agencies or faith-based organizations. Together, we're able to achieve a lot more. So really working on the collaborations, working on building those partnerships and making them deeper and stronger, and creating new ones as we continue to work through this process.
Do you see that as your role, or do you have somebody on your team that's going to move?
No, I really see that as my role. Okay. The reintroduction, perhaps, of the organization to organizations that maybe we had a stronger relationship in the past with, or the introduction to organizations that don't really know that much about bridging the gap. And then, of course, making sure that the relationships that we have that are ongoing continue to be robust, and that we are working together to achieve the goals in the community. Making sure that those three, the three-word statement that we use as our mantra to feed, serve, and restore is really happening. Yeah.
How do you define restore?
I think there are a lot of different ways to define restore. For some people, ultimately, I think the thought is the restoration to a relationship with Christ. I think that ultimately is what we as Christians are working for. But the restoration piece is larger on the physical needs being met first, because when all of those needs are met, when you have housing, when you have food, when you have a job, when you come into community and begin to function in community, then you are working your way into restoration. I think those things are all important, and I think they each play a piece, because if you don't have the groundwork, if someone is worried about where they're going to get their next meal, where they're going to be living, how are they surviving, they certainly don't have the time or the energy to become part of a community and to be able to contribute back to that community, which is all part of the restoration piece.
Now, I know you've only been there for 30 days. Plus.
Yeah, a little over 30 days.
This is not a very fair question. Do you have any life change stories yet? Have you have any stories that you can share?
I have to tell you.
In 30 days?
Sure. Well, I can tell you something that happened even prior to me getting here. I had given notice to the United Way that I was leaving a little more than 4 weeks. And so I was wrapping up everything with them. In Ohio. I was having regular calls with board members for Bridging the Gap after I'd accepted the job. I was working at night, learning the Noonan community and really diving into Bridging the Gap information so I could really hit the ground running. I had a house I had to put up for sale. I have a child I have to move. I had a place to find to live here. I had a child to register to go to school here. I had a lot of balls in the air.
I'm about to say, that's a lot.
And I got a text message from Craig Buchanan, who's the director of operations, and he said, we've been thinking about you a lot. We know that all the things that you're doing are really stressful, and we just want you to know that we're holding you up in prayer. And it was at that moment I knew I had absolutely made the right decision. This was absolutely the place I was supposed to be. Yeah. So even before I came, I was getting those affirmations that I had come to the right place. And then once I got here, I am a huge gardener, and I rent someplace now, so I can't really dig in the dirt like I like to do. So I made a trip.
But we have a community garden.
Well,
Are you aware of our community garden that you can rent a box?
I am quickly headed that direction.
Yes.
But in this circumstance, I wanted to just get a couple of pots and start planting some things and getting them out, and so I made a trip to Lowe's. And it was on a Saturday after we had just finished doing the food pantry. And so I had on my jeans and my Bridging the Gap t-shirt, my tennis shoes, and I'm in Lowe's, and I'm gathering all these things. And I get to the cash register, and I have all my plants. And the girl looks at me, and she says, "Are you with Bridging the Gap?" And I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "Well, can I tell you my Bridging the Gap story?" And I said, "Absolutely." So she told me that the year before, she had been working for an organization. She was making $30,000 a year. She lost her job right before Christmas. She had no savings. They were really living more paycheck to paycheck. She had a young son who was in middle school, but he was a big boy, like size 20, big boy.
Yeah.
And she had no idea.
We call that husky.
That's a good word for it.
And I was a husky,
Sure.
and still am a husky, so I relate to big boys. Anyway, I'm sorry, Kelly, go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's okay. And she said, I came to Bridging the Gap. I met with them. I told them what was going on. They went out and purchased a winter coat for him that fit, that was his size.
Nice.
They called me and they said, "Please, come on in." And I came back, and they gave me the coat, and they gave me gift cards to give to my son for Christmas, and I was able to give Christmas to my son. And as she's telling me this, she's bawling. And this is at the cash register at Lowe's. And I stood there and I listened to her. And I told her, I said, I feel so privileged that you would tell me this story. And she said, "God bless you and the work you do at Bridging the Gap." And it took my breath away. But it really happened. Here was a woman who really had her life changed in some way, even if it was a small way, through an experience with Bridging the Gap.
I think. I mean, you think about a mom wanting to care for her children. I mean, each of us who's a parent, we know that feeling of we wanting our children to have just basic needs, basic what they basically need. And wow, what a story!
Yeah, I mean, it was tremendous. And each year, Bridging the Gap does Christmas in Coweta. And with partners with churches and through individual donations. Last year, they were able to support Christmas for 1,600 children in Coweta County. That's amazing.
That's a lot.
And that's not just one gift per child. That's a true Christmas for each of those children.
Well, I know that our church, I think we took 6 families this past year, 6 or 7 families, and that represented something like, I want to say it was 20-something kids. Yeah. That our little church we took on, and what a gift it was for our folks to be able to be the hands and feet of Christ and to share that. And one of the things I love, I don't know if they shared this with you about Christmas in Coweta. If local churches partner like we do, you have the option of families coming to the church to receive, which gave me an opportunity to be a pastor to these families and just to love on them and pray with them. I mean, it was a special time. I mean, just to say, hey, we won't be, Christ loves us. Christ loves you. What's ours is yours. We want to share. Bless your family with this. Right. And it was just a beautiful picture of the kingdom that you guys, Bridging the Gap, orchestrated. I mean, that's a special ministry that takes place in our community every December.
Yeah, it is a tremendous.
You guys are coming up. You're doing something with uniform or clothing, right? Tell us a little.
Yeah. Well, okay. So during the summer, we do a summer lunch program, and we do that at CJ Park, at Hope Global, and at Ruth Hill. As part of the wrap-up of the summer lunch program, that's 250 kids a day are receiving a lunch at those locations combined. And really excited. We're about to surpass the 12,000 meals that we will have served
this summer. Which is remarkable in itself.
Well, and again, that can't happen without the partnerships we have with the churches and the civic organizations.
So you probably have, 20 churches or so that partner with you on this?
There are about 16 to 20 churches that partner with us on it.
That's a lot. That's a lot of faith communities here.
It is. And so as part of the wrap-up, every year before school starts, we do a program called Top to Toe. And that's where we receive donations. Churches participate. Bridging the Gap also facilitates this, where kids register to receive outfit for back to school from head to toe. So they'll receive everything they need, including underwear and a gift card so that they can buy shoes that fit them.
Wow.
So we're wrapping that up on July 26th.
And how many will you serve through this?
236 children registered this year.
And you got those children registered through the lunch program? Is that how you got
a lot of them came through the lunch program. Churches also distributed information, and other social service agencies and organizations helped us distribute that information. And so we have 236 children who registered.
Okay.
On the 26th at CJ Park, all of the locations where we do feeding, Ruth Hill, CJ, and Hope Global, will all come to CJ Park. They'll all get lunch for the day. There are yard games. There are crafts. It's like a whole festival. We're cooking hot dogs and everything.
And when is that?
That's Friday
of this
week
okay.
At CJ Park. And we'll have field games and yard games like giant Jenga and things like that for the kids to do. And the kids who have registered, anyone can come and have the meal and participate in the day. But the kids who are registered for Top to Toe will actually receive their packages of their clothing that day. So it's a great way to kind of wrap up summer with them getting ready for back to school. And it's really exciting because Hope Global is one of our partners, AKA Sorority is one of our partners, Deidre Benbury, State Farm is one of our partners, Community Christian. Loving Our City is another one of the ministries that is one of our partners. And then, of course, Noonan Presbyterian Church is actually serving food and helping with volunteers that day.
I hear Noonan Press is doing that. That's great.
Yeah, they actually had this whole week serving at CJ Park. So
wonderful. David's a great guy, their pastor. I don't know if you've met David or not, but neat guy.
Right. Well, I have a soft spot in my heart for Noonan Presbyterian. My parents go there, and so does my grandmother. So it was wonderful to know that they were participating at this level.
It's a great church in town. Yeah. It's good stuff. So you've got, that's coming up with the clothing. The next big moving into the fall, what are some of your big events in the fall?
Well, Glow Run happens in December.
And that's the first Sunday?
First Sunday in December. It's a 5K.
I run that every year.
So do you? Oh, good.
Now, you looked at me like, do you?
I didn't.
That hurt me, Kelly.
You made a husky comment. I just took it a little further.
Ryan. I think she's dogging me out over here, brother.
No. I run to food or away from things I'm afraid of. I don't usually run in a 5K, but I'm happy to facilitate a 5K because it is the major fundraiser that we do during the course of the year.
Well attended. I mean, there's probably, what, is there 1,500? How many people come out for that event?
Just about 1,500 people run it.
It's a big
Because you can run the 5K or you can walk.
Sure.
So you don't have to be a dedicated runner. You can bring the kids out. And, it's at night. And
Foundation has their ice cream truck there, and Love and Life.
All kinds of community partners coming out and really helping to serve during that. And that really helps with a lot of the bulk of the funding we use for Christmas in Coweta, and into the year with some of the funding for our organization, because we are a nonprofit. We do have to fundraise to be able to keep these outreach pieces going. And there is a need. There is always a need. And, my job really is to work so hard that hopefully I make that need go away because we've met that need. Yeah. That's the ultimate dream as a nonprofit, to put yourself out of business. But to do that, we need the help of community members. We have wonderful individuals in the community who donate. We have wonderful faith-based organizations who donate, civic organizations. This community really works well together to focus their energy into programs that are worthwhile.
Mm-hmm. Now, most people who volunteer, and there are multiple opportunities to volunteer, every Saturday in the warehouse. Every Saturday you have a group that comes in, leads the worship, and provides breakfast.
Yes.
You got volunteers during the week who come and serve in the warehouse doing the food distribution.
Absolutely. We have a clothing bank that we do by appointment only, where people get to come in. It's really set up as a boutique, and they get to shop.
Nice.
Because, there are so many things that happen to so many people who are experiencing a downturn in their own economic situation, and the restoration of personal dignity, to be able to shop for your own clothes, to be able to get a box of food that you would actually buy at the grocery store, to be able to come in and take a shower, to be able to have a hot meal. All of those things work towards that purpose. It really is tremendous. Volunteer opportunities, though, really range from, we need volunteers to help us paint, to help us move things, to help us to clean, to help us with registration of people being trained.
With Natalie in the kitchen, cooking. I see volunteers there every week. It's like, if you can volunteer, with the exception of Sundays.
Sure, and we are not open on Sunday.
Yeah, you're not open on Sunday. Really, other than Sunday, and if you can volunteer, call Bridging the Gap and say, hey, I can give you 2 hours. How can you use me?
Absolutely.
Because there's always, again, that warehouse is a machine in itself. It's its whole entity over there, and you guys, all the work that goes into that each week is amazing.
That is a tremendous undertaking. Our warehouse manager, Layla, does a tremendous job, but she's only one person, and although she may think she can do it all on her own, she does appreciate the help of volunteers to make that happen.
Let me tell you, Layla, and of course our church is next door, so we see, I see who's there working at. She is a machine. She works all the time.
All the time.
I'll leave at some nights at 6, 6:30, 7. She's over there working. I'm thinking, sister, when do you go home? She is cranking it out.
She does crank it out, and she does. She has the flexibility to be able to work the hours that she needs to, and of course that warehouse has no air conditioning, so it's hot. So it's not unusual to see her there early in the morning or late at night to be able to make those things happen. And thankfully we have the flexibility to be able to allow that. There's always a way to volunteer at Bridging the Gap. There's always a need. I recently just got a telephone call from, or actually it was an email, from a young woman who is on the National Honor Society up at Northgate High School.
Okay, good.
And so she's coming in this afternoon to talk to me about National Honor Society students and also the Beta Club students being able to fulfill their volunteer hours at Bridging the Gap. So we're really excited about the possibility of being able to plug those kids in, because it's really important to start when you're young, to show service when you're young.
Teaching them at that age, hey, it is not about you. what a gift you're giving them and their parents, giving them an opportunity to give back and to serve. I mean, that's a big, I think a big role of nonprofits and bridging
Absolutely.
the gap. I'm a little biased, but I love Bridging the Gap. I appreciate what you all do and how you serve in the community, and it is one of the. And when people ask me, tell me about the nonprofits in Noonan, you guys are always first on my list to share, and just what the impact that you all are making. But it's been so good having you on the show today, Kelly.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Now you are. People want to learn more about Bridging the Gap. Tell us all that.
You can go online and visit our website, which is btgcommunity.org.
Okay.
Or you can stop by the office and visit us. We're at 19 First Avenue here in Noonan.
Next to Noonan City Church.
Next to Noonan City Church, yes, they're right next door. And actually, that's a great relationship. We're happy that you're next door. You're a good neighbor.
We love being a good neighbor.
And we're right down the street, kind of catty corner from the Noonan Community Theater.
Yeah, right before the tracks.
Yeah.
We're only loud on Sundays, though.
We're loud. You said we're loud.
We're only loud on Sundays.
We are a loud neighbor on Sundays. So, but fortunately, they're not there on Sundays. So. Oh, well, listen, Kelly, thank you so much, sister, for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
And would love to get you or somebody on the team later on this fall gearing up for the Glow Run, too.
Oh, absolutely. We will definitely come back if you invite us.
Absolutely. Well, we are always looking for good guests, aren't we, Ryan? So it is.
Yes.
Well, friends, thanks for tuning in this week to Faith Works. We look forward to being with you again next Tuesday as we discuss with another community leader that faith does indeed work.
Thanks for tuning in to Faith Works with Pastor Jimmy Ellison from Noonan City Church. Tune back in here next week for another edition of Faith Works.